Darktable 5.6 is out now, and we are continuing our look at the new features. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to episode 168 of Understanding Darktable. Before we continue on, I do just quickly want to revisit something I said in episode 167. In the section UI UX improvements, there were two paragraphs. When moving and when copying photos from a collection, we switched to the target collection only if we didn't change manually to another collection during that copy or move, and the current collection is now empty. So what I want to do to demonstrate is, in my photos test shots folder, I've created a folder called EP168, and I've just copied in 3 raw files, and I've created a new folder called new location. So what we're going to do is, in Darktable, we are going to add those images. You see here I've got recursive directory, and I'm just going to bring in those 3 files. There's those 3 files. And under collections, that appears as a film roll called EP168. If I now select all of those images, and I select move or copy, either will do this, and I now point them to this folder called new location, select as destination, they have now been moved, and we can see that our film roll is now called new location. So that's what it meant by it changes to the new collection if the old collection is now devoid of images, which it is because we moved all 3 images. So that's what was meant by those 2 entries in the release notes. Now, let's continue on. From the big ones, added install scripts for Linux and Windows that set a GPU acceleration for the new AI features. The scripts detect the user's GPU vendor and install the matching runtime. They can be run from a local checkout or fetched and run online with a single command. See the GPU acceleration page in the user manual for details. Mac OS users and most Windows users don't need to run anything because GPU acceleration is already bundled. In the color calibration module, the calibration box is now initialized on the current bounding box. That is, if a zoom is effective, the calibration box will be fully visible and won't require you to zoom out. Now, I think what this means is that if I went to, say, color calibration, and I was to click on the eyedropper, by default, the bounding box will fill 98% of the frame, and the color calibration will be read from the data that is inside that bounding box. Now, if I undo that and I zoom in and I do the same thing, exactly the same thing has occurred. The bounding box is still filling 98% of the entire image, not just 98% of the currently zoomed in area. So if we zoom out, we can then see that bounding box again. Make the slider background darker to gain some contrast, making them easier to differentiate from the other labels. Introduced a condensed mode for the panel's control widgets. This mode is off by default and can be selected in the miscellaneous page of preferences. So if we go into our preferences, go to miscellaneous, we can see here condensed panels controls. We can activate that. It does require a restart of Darktable, and after the restart you can see that things are quite a bit smaller. All of the text is smaller, the sliders are smaller. So yeah, it's just a little bit more condensed. Added a 2-up scope showing both the waveform and the vector scope. This allows for a simultaneous understanding of both the lightness and the chromaticity of an image. So if you come into the darkroom, you'll now see that there is a 5th icon called split for the histogram, and that will give us vector scope on the right and waveform view on the left. And the last one for UI and UX rendering in this video, support rendering and caching of higher resolution thumbnails or full screen preview images in light table view. Previously, for displays larger than 4K, Darktable would render a full res preview, then downscale it. These higher resolution previews allow for less jumpy zooming in of high megapixel files. Now, personally, I've only got a 4K monitor. I don't have anything with more resolution than that. I don't know of any monitors that support higher than that other than Apple's 5K Retina monitor, but there may be other monitors out there that do. So if you have one of those, lucky you. Rustic L, I assume is the way you pronounce that, is the preferred OpenCL driver instead of ROCm on AMD systems. In the Styles module, a new option has been added to hide the preview in the tooltip. Additionally, a module preference now allows you to change the preview size with two options available, default and large. Improved debugging option dump diff pipe for those of you interested in OpenCL code and debugging. Added the possibility to vectorize the bitmap displayed in the external raster mask module. The vectorized mask is added into the Mask Manager module as a path object ready to be used as any other mask. Now, when I read that, I thought, why would I need to vectorize the external raster mask? Because I can just call it from any other module. And it took me a little minute, but I eventually worked it out. It's in case you want to use the external raster masks feature with more than one external raster mask for a given image. So what I did was I just took this particular image, exported it to a JPEG, brought that particular JPEG into GIMP, made a circle selection of the top of this pot plant, filled that with black, then created another layer, inverted the selection and filled that with white, and then exported this as a PNG file called Black Circle and put it into my external raster masks folder. So now what I could do is, let's say I did desaturation of this image using color balance RGB. I go to the raster masks option. I select the external raster masks as the source. I do then need to go to the external raster masks folder and select Black Circle, and there it is. And now when I jump back to my color balance RGB module, we can see that that external raster mask has been applied to this image. So now we've just got color information inside the black portion of the mask, and everywhere the mask was white, we've got a desaturated image. Let's say we wanted to use the external raster masks for a different mask. So now I jump over to my external raster masks module, click on vectorize, and now in Mask Manager we have this path, and I'm going to call that path Black Circle. Now I might want to use a different mask. Let's go with, I don't know, 168 PNG, which is just a gradient mask that goes from black on the right to white on the left. So now I come back to my color balance RGB module, and we can see that that raster mask has been applied to this image. We've got full saturation on the right hand side where the mask is black. We've got desaturation on the left where the mask is white. But we still have Black Circle available to us from the Mask Manager. So if I then wanted to go to another module, let's just go to RGB Curve, and we'll go to Drawn Masks, and we will go from No Masks Used, we will choose Black Circle, and now we have a combination of those two external raster masks. The first one, which was the Black Circle, which we vectorized, and the gradient, which is still active on our color balance RGB module. So that's why you would need that vectorise button in the external raster masks module. And that, my friends, is what we're going to cover for this video. There is still a heap more to cover, which is why I'm breaking this up into 5 separate videos. Questions, comments, sing out down below. I'll catch you in the next one.